Hey everybody, welcome to the Rhapsody studio here in Anthem, Arizona, and welcome to another episode of our Rhapspired video series, where we are talking to musicians here at Rhapsody about what has inspired and inspires them to be part of what we do here and part of being music supporters in kids' lives and that. So I'm really thrilled today. I'm here with Dr. David Fattu. Sir, thank you so much for being here. I've had a chance to work with David here since about 2013 now. I've just recently got a chance now to call him doctor as he's completed his doctorate. It's kind of fun. So again, thank you so much for being here. As you can see, we always try and represent a little bit of what our people are about and try and get our guests to talk about what inspired them and how they got started. We learned a little tidbit about Dr. Fattu today. You see a string instrument here, and he's our orchestra teacher, but in fact, you did not start out as a string specialist, did you?
No.
Tell us how you got started in music, sir.
Yeah, it goes back to when we moved to Glendale, Arizona from Page, Arizona, which is a really small town in northern Arizona. I didn't know anybody. It was after my 4th grade year, and my mom was kind of at a loss as to what to do with me, and she flipped through a City of Glendale rec center type of catalog. It was like, oh, there's a couple things. How about this one? It's called band. And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe band. And so she signed me up for band, and I had to go pick out an instrument and went to a local music store and was looking at all the instruments on the wall and going, well, I don't know anything about any of these instruments. How about that one there? It's only got 3 buttons. The other ones seem to have too many buttons. So yeah, as a 4th grader, that's how I got involved in music.
And right into trumpet.
Just absolutely fell in love with it from the get-go.
Really?
It was my jam, if you will, all the way through elementary school, junior high, high school. I went to NAU summer music camp every summer from 6th grade through 12th grade. It was just what I enjoyed. It was what I wanted to spend my time doing.
Very cool. How long did you play trumpet before you switched into other instruments? Because I know you probably you're not limited to any necessarily one or two.
No. I played trumpet all the way through college, but I added instruments along the way. It was really, I think about 7th grade, I added the electric bass guitar.
Okay.
Thought that was just cool because I wanted to be a rock star, and of course, we have a common friend in Brian Canary who I went to school with, and we had a band together in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade.
I was just envisioning in my head a picture that came by me one time with you guys in a high school band, which is kind of funny. Had you guys stayed in touch, or did it kind of loop back when he connected with Rhapsody? You guys reconnected, or have you guys always been in touch?
No, we've always been in touch.
What an interesting connection.
Yeah, no, we went to high school together. We went on to ASU at the School of Music together, so we knew each other through that.
Oh, very cool.
Very
cool. So obviously very involved in music. Rockstar? Did you get?
No. Well, yeah. I mean,
did we make it
as
yet?
much as a 7th grader can be a rock star amongst other 7th graders,
right.
Yeah, it definitely felt like that. That was, there's a lot of stories, a lot of pictures of
That's funny.
That's what she played. Brian and Chris and I, that was our other friend. We lived the rock and roll lifestyle as 7th
graders.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So you played, you said you played brass through college. Did you say you played in the ASU marching band?
I did.
Yeah, very cool.
2 years in the ASU marching band.
Were they doing, what was the football team doing at that time? Were you hitting any bowls, or did you get a chance to do any kind of extraneous stuff in those years?
No, I wish. Sophomore year, we were supposed to go to the Alamo Bowl as long as we beat the U of A. One of the few times we did not beat the U of A.
Gotcha.
So we didn't get to go on that trip. And then they went to the Rose Bowl the year after I graduated.
Yeah, bummer.
Yeah.
That marching band, people can have opinions about marching band.
Sure.
Getting to experience a collegiate marching experience is dynamic.
It's a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely a whole nother level.
Yeah, you also are playing with, like everybody is, there's a level of musicianship and a level of just physical maturity where you can do a lot more things than you ever could do. It's hard to describe it or a place. My college was in Eastern Washington.
Yeah.
And our football games were at like 20 degrees below zero. Yours were 20 degrees above 100.
Yes. Summer band camp at ASU is like any summer band camp around town. It's 115 degrees out, and it's not so much fun. But it was a great musical experience, but it was a great social opportunity, because again, when you're at a school like Arizona State University with tens of thousands of students, you're kind of lost.
Yeah.
And you know, I know a lot of band directors talk about, oh, my band's a family, my band's a family. We absolutely were a family. You know, Coach Fleming, who was the director there for a long time, that's his deal. He makes that group feel like a family. And literally, I didn't know this, but students who were out of town students who didn't have the opportunity to go home for Thanksgiving, he and his wife hosted a Thanksgiving dinner every single fall for all of the band students that didn't have it. I never went. I had family here in the Valley, but I had a friend or a colleague actually years later who was like 3 years behind me in school. So I was never, must have been more than 3 years, so I was never in the band with her, but she was telling me that story and I was like, no way, I can't believe that. Wow, that's amazing that Coach Fleming did that. But yeah, it was a great deal of fun because, you know, in high school marching band, right, these kids for the most part, it's one show for the whole season.
Yeah.
And so they're just focusing on that. One of the first things that hit me was it's a different show every game.
Right.
We would finish a Saturday game and Monday, here's the new charts, here's the new music. We got to roll this out in 2 weeks.
Were you guys more, you know, a lot of people can be a little more aware of the current style of marching, which is really based on the whole DCI thing.
Sure.
I know when I was in high school, and in college, we did a little more, I wouldn't say we were even DCI in college. We were a little more form flowing, but we were definitely kind of old block formations and moving in squads. Is that still the similar?
Yeah. When I went to school in the 90s, in the mid 90s, it was very
still
much
like
still that way, and my high school experience was absolutely that way. The new style, as exciting as it is.
Pinwheels and drop fours and all that. I liked it for sure. So you got through college and you played. Obviously, you've been involved in music for a long time. I know you taught music, you teach music here. Your doctorate is in education-related stuff. Where did you make that choice? What really took you to that level of saying, not only do I enjoy this as a 7th grade rock star,
Sure.
but where do you take it to? And kind of want to know where you really got into the whole big-time classical string thing too.
Yeah. So, again, it was just a matter of adding instruments. So going to music camp every summer, I had a camp counselor who was a string bass player and saw that I played the electric bass guitar and mentioned to me, oh, hey, you should try the string bass. It's the same fingerings, it's the same string setup, it just doesn't have frets. And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And so I came home after summer camp, just jazzed as I always was, and was asking my parents, I want piano lessons and I want string bass lessons. Is there any way I can get those?
Right. And
my parents were like, yeah, you're gonna have to pick one. And so I picked the string bass, which turned out to be a good choice for me. I played in the symphonic band in high school. We didn't have an orchestra program at the time in Peoria School District. And so, I continued to play every summer. String bass became my main focus. Okay. Trumpet was a secondary thing. I didn't play trumpet in music camp after the 9th grade.
Gotcha.
I was just string bass and electric bass guitar at that point. But when I went to college, that was what ended up getting me a full ride scholarship, was the string bass. I performed in the ASU Symphonic Band.
And classical right from the start, as opposed to, you didn't jump into like a rock or a jazz?
No, it was both.
Oh,
it was really both. Yeah, I was in high school jazz band. Again, there wasn't anything about music that I didn't love.
Yeah.
Really, it could be jazz music, it could be classical music, it could be symphonic band music. It could be pop music, it could be rock, country. There wasn't anything that I didn't love.
Nice.
And bass was the instrument for me, because it's like, well, what instrument doesn't use a bass? Everybody uses it. Any style of music uses bass. So that was where that instrument really just it hit home for me.
Very cool.
It became my
And did you jump basically right into an ed degree?
Yeah, so in high school, kind of going back just a couple of years, in high school, my first 2 years of high school, I had an amazing band director, John McCord, and those that were around in Peoria School District in the 80s and early 90s would remember that name, because that he was one of the top band directors in the state, and just a really genuinely hard-working individual who really cared about kids and cared about education, and really instilled a sense of excellence in the people that the students who had the fortune of being in his ensembles. And really, I would say from freshman, sophomore year, I was convinced at that point I wanted to be a band director.
Oh,
I want to be the next Mr. McCord. And it's funny because then later, a couple years later, Mr. Holland's Opus came out. And of course, everybody's like, oh, you must want to be a band director because of Mr. Holland. I'm like, no, I don't want to be because of Mr. Holland. I want to be because of Mr. McCord. He was the one I looked up to. And it was a really tough situation between my sophomore and junior year. Mr. McCord passed away suddenly.
Oh, wow.
Of heart attack, essentially, and that really, I guess, cemented to a certain extent. Now, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm down this path, and so yeah, I went into ASU as a music education major, and 4 years later came out. They said, well, as an instrumental music education major, you either choose to be a band director or you choose to be an orchestra director. And I was like, can I do both? And they're like, yeah, it's a lot of work. I don't know if you really want to do both. Most people pick. Why don't you pick? No. If I can do both, I want to do both.
Yeah.
And so yeah, my student teaching was split evenly. I was at Centennial High School in the morning, and I was at Shaw Butte Elementary School in the afternoon. Centennial High School band in the morning, Shaw Butte Elementary School orchestra string ensemble in the afternoon.
Nice. I was hired to do, it was a high school job.
Yeah.
With an elementary orchestra component.
There you go. Sure.
So I had to start, and I even had a high school orchestra for a couple years too. And I broke my arm going into the year.
Oh.
So I'm trying to teach elementary violins, and I've got this
Your left arm
cast.
Oh my, yeah.
Couldn't do anything. It was terrible. That's interesting. You and I actually have a very interesting similar track.
Yeah.
Two things I got to share. Almost everybody that's been in, and I'm going to point this out as and I think the people on video would also should know this. Every one of us that's come in has mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4 different really important mentor names in the process.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's a continuous thing that people need to understand is those influences that the kids have as they go through all these different levels are so critically important. So good
critical.
thing.
So critical.
And the other one is I was already teaching when Mr. Holland's Opus came out. I was in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And there was a scene came on where the principal looked at Mr. Holland and said, "What do you think about marching band?" And I out like a laughter outburst in the theater, and I was the only one. Dead silent, and I'm just like laughing uproariously going, oh, nobody knows even what that means.
Nobody knows what that
was funny. Yeah, so you were band director when you started. Now, did you, a whole way through, did you do any orchestral instructing in that?
So yeah, my career took a couple of interesting turns. So I was a 5th through 8th grade band director. I started in my second year, I started a jazz band program at the schools. I was working at multiple schools, at both of the schools that I was working at the time. Things were going really well, and I was enjoying my position. And then just an opportunity came up to where I at least needed to look at it. It was a district level position where I was going to be a technology trainer.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up accepting that position. And so I left teaching band after 3 years. But as part of that, I had a conversation with the director of arts education, and I said, listen, I know I'm not going to be the band director at these schools anymore. However, if you have an interest in starting it, I would be interested in starting a district string program. And I will teach that program outside of my regular contract, either before or after school.
Wow.
In this case, it ended up being before school. And so I actually ended up doing that for 4 years.
Okay.
And built that group up. It started as a before school 1 day a week beginning orchestra, and then guess what? Now I got an intermediate, and then we got to have another beginning orchestra, and then by the 3rd year I had 3 orchestras, and I was teaching 3 days a week.
Wow.
Before school I think I got there at 6 a.m. I think we were 7 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Yep.
if I remember, 7 to 7:45, something like that. and taught that program. And by the time I got to the 4th year, I realized I had bit off more than I could chew, and I went back to the arts director and I said, you know, what I really think this district needs is what they should have had all along, which is full-time string teacher. And he said, you know, I figured you would be coming to ask about that, and I've already been thinking about that. And so they ended up hiring a full-time string teacher to take my place, and I resigned that position after 4 years. And,
Very cool story, though.
And,
you know,
yeah.
it sounds like an influence of your high school band director, because that took a lot of commitment and a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And that was you putting the time on that.
Yeah, and it was a great deal of fun, and I enjoyed it, but it became to a point where, no, I really just can't do that kind of hours.
Well, sure.
And my other job was a pretty heavy job too, so, you know, it does kind of go back to when I was in school, and I never had that orchestra opportunity, and that was kind of a goal, I think, when I left high school, was I'd someday love to come back and get this implemented, start to see something grow in Peoria District of a true string orchestra program.
Right.
Because you know, you talk about our conversations in the past, you and I have talked about orchestra kids and band kids.
Yeah.
They're sometimes very different. The different personalities.
Sometimes about it.
and there are orchestra kids that love music but would not really want to ever be in band. It's just not their personality to be in band. They really need their own program. They really need their orchestra. It's like the difference between choir kids and band kids.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing. It's a different personality. It's a different kind of kid that likes orchestra, generally speaking. And so they need that program. And if a school is not offering that program, there are kids being underserved, essentially. They're not being given the opportunity to really grow.
100%. As soon as we had built a program at my high school to the point, there was a point where I said, we've got to hire somebody, because it's not right for me as the trumpet guy, because I didn't have as much string experience as you by far, to say, we need to provide them what they deserve at that point in time. So, what a treat. That's some good stories there, and I know there's more stories in there. Boy, if you want a chance to get some more information from David, come in and get a lesson with him. If you're a string instructor, come on in and hang out with him a little bit. Obviously a ton of passion and a ton of inspiration, and has been involved in the Arizona music scene here for a long time at a very deep level, and has stayed with it. That tells you a little bit about what we as music teachers and musicians about. I talk to people when we hire. I heard some at NAM one year, they said, don't just hire artists, and don't just hire teachers. Hire artistic teachers or teaching artists. It's a mixture, right? And it's been such a thrill to kind of have that mix of people. So what a treat. Dave, thank you, Dr. Fattu, for being with us today. Boy, we sure glad you guys joined us as well on the video. Again, if you ever have any requests of things you'd like to hear about or see, please email us at mike@rhapsodyschoolofmusic.com or lessons@rhapsodyschoolofmusic.com. You can call us at 623-465-7060. You can also jump on our website, Rhapsody Music AZ, find out a ton of information about everything we got going on, stuff about Mr. Fattu, myself, and the rest of the instructors. So on behalf of Mr. Fattu and Rhapsody Music and all the rest of us here, thank you so much for joining us. Have a Rhapspired and musical day.